All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Workbench, your resource rich weekly podcast and newsletter for local service entrepreneurs. As always, we're brought to you by Lead Truffle. Lead Truffle helps turn your website visitors and phone calls into paying customers to 24/7 AI powered texting. Continuing on our franchise focus here over the past couple months, we now are going into a new segment for us, Rick. I believe you're the first fitness entrepreneur we've had on. So I'm really excited to switch it up and dive into a new industry. I personally love fitness. I go to CrossFit and have been working out since I was about 15. So it's definitely a really interesting space for me personally. So we're excited to dive into how you scaled up Alloy to around 120 active locations, 400 franchisees or locations awarded, and really dive into some of the similarities between, say, like a home service business, kind of what we focus on, and then some of the differences. So Rick, thank you so much for coming on. And for those that don't know you or aren't familiar with Alloy, would you mind just giving a little background on yourself and your business?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, look, I'm honored to be the first fitness guy, if you will, on your
Yeah.
podcast. So, look, man, we've been at it for a minute. So, we actually opened our original gym. I'm the founder, so I opened our original gym in 1992 when I was in college. Which is, were you born by then, Brian?
Yeah, no, that
Probably
was
not.
about I'm gonna show my age here. That was about a year before I was born, so not
There
quite.
you go. Twinkle in your dad's eye at that point. But yeah, man, it's we've been at it for a minute. So we landed on a really interesting business model probably 8 or so years after we opened. Because when most people hear personal training, they think, one coach, one client, logically. But we figured out a way to scale it where people could work out with their friends and we could still deliver personal training, but the cost would be a bit less and it was a lot more fun. So it actually increased adherence and success rate of clients. They paid less. We could help more people. We made more money. It was kind of a win all the way around. And because of that, we became one of the highest revenue per square foot facilities in the country. And then that put me on a speaking circuit. So I was, standing on my soapbox telling everyone how we had done it. That led to questions. And so we would do a lot of consulting on the back end of those presentations. And then it was the same questions started to appear over and over again. So then we built a platform and we called it licensing, which can be a little confusing with franchising, but just think about a white labeled version of what we do. And we started that maybe 20 years ago. And we scaled that thing, Brian, to 2,500 door fronts from, again, India, Dubai, Tasmania, all the fun, wild places I can think of to talk about. But, just powering all kinds of brands, CrossFit, one of them as well. We had some really good CrossFit clubs. And they would hire us to figure out how they could monetize their local market better. And it might be like a different offering. And we could build comp structures. I mean, it was gun for hire work. It was a lot of fun and we learned a ton. In that time, that put me on an advisory position for Anytime Fitness, and they had 5,000 locations. So that was certainly learning how to deploy and operationalize something in a big franchise structure. Same thing with Gold's Gym. And then eventually around at the end of 2019, we pivoted to full on franchising. So look, instead of powering everybody else's with white label, let's do our own. And of course, timing's everything. So we kicked it off. I think we awarded 8 licenses in the first month. I'm like, this is so easy. And then, of course, COVID hit and that put us on hold for, probably till mid 21. Then we jumped back on it. And then, like you said, 400 awarded and, 120 open. So we're opening 5 to 8 a month and we're awarding about 10 a month. So it's moving at a pretty good clip and it's a ton of fun. I used to teach entrepreneurship at a local college here. And so now that I'm as passionate about that as I am about fitness, and now they're in the same vehicle. So as long as I've been in the industry, 34 years now, this is actually the most fun that I've had in any of the stages. And they've all been awesome, by the way.
So let's walk through the concept a little bit. I've personally done some one-on-one personal training. I found the best bang for my buck is like a small class because you're still getting some of that personalized attention and someone setting the regimen for you versus needing to think of it and make it up, so I found the CrossFit gym to be perfect for me. For Alloy, what's the model? Is it one to many, one to one? And then from a business perspective, are the franchisees the trainers? Do they hire the trainers? How's all that?
Yeah, so it's actually a 1 to 6. And people always ask why. It's like, well, because if we did 8, we had to call it a class. And it's not a class, it's a personal training session, right? So we knew exactly what a personal training session was. I mean, we first 10 years of our business, it was all one-on-one. So we try to take the best things from one-on-one in the community concept, that from a class-based concept, and kind of meet in the middle, right? So 6 was the threshold because if it was 8, it was a class. If it was 4, we couldn't provide the right value proposition. There's all kinds of cool technology that makes up to 6 people personal training. So everybody gets their own program. Everybody gets their version of like really good principled programs. We can have a guy like you in there, Brian, who's crushing it. And there can be a guy in there who's 70 in the same session with a bad shoulder. And you guys are doing totally different things. Right. And it doesn't, like, he doesn't slow you down and you don't push him too hard. You know, it's not a 3-2-1 go, which is great for an animal like yourself. But for that 70-year-old, right. And our target avatar is 45, 65. Right. So it's like little bit of a different animal. You know, a healthy location for us, we're small footprint, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. A healthy model for us has 130 to 150 clients. And there's some science behind that. There's a number called Dunbar's number, which is a British scientist who studied like ancient civilizations all the way to current. And basically the question was, how many people can you have in a really tight circle that you can have a really tight cognitive relationship with outside of like your very close friends and your family? And the number was 150. So it's often referred to as Dunbar's number or the rule of 150. So in a model like that, our retention is way higher than any industry standard. And the reason is like everybody knows your name and you know their names, right? It just creates a little bit of what you're getting at your CrossFit. I think that's something they've done really well, is create that community. We're able to do the same, just a different customer avatar than what they work with, just a bit older and, you know, a few chinks in the armor as you get older. But yeah, I mean, that's the model in a nutshell that we've been running for the last 25 years and are now able to scale it in a franchise structure.
From a franchise dev perspective, when a new franchisee is coming on, like I mean, you can talk numbers if you want, but just like what's the general kind of activation? I'm assuming they need to find a space, they need to select that space. Are you helping them pick the perfect real estate? Do they pick that? Like, walk us through, someone's listening like, oh, maybe I want to do that. What's the path from, hey, ready to open this to actually opening our doors?
Yeah, I mean, we're probably over involved in a lot of ways, but I think if you haven't been an entrepreneur, that's kind of what you need. So let's say that you go through our sales process, which is, 6 weeks or so, and it's a double vetting process. It's a fractionalized partnership. We need to want to work with you. You need to want to work with us. We've got a great bicycle that we've built. You just have to pedal it, is what we often use as an analogy. So once we get to the point where we say, yeah, let's all move forward together, once they're on board, then we do an orientation call and you get a studio coordinator from our team put in your hip pocket. And then we also deploy national real estate vendors into your market. And they know everything about the space that we're looking for, the rent factor that we're trying to hit, the size. We do test fit with architecture. We help you with the negotiations on your LOI, and then all the way through to your lease, right? And there's 1,000,001 little steps there, but there are touch points for us, Brian, along the way, where imagine a line across a piece of paper. Above the line are all these construction functions that are triggering business functions below the line. An example would be permitting's in. Now you need to hire, right? Because we know that you're this far away from coming to training, right? To come to corporate for your in-person training. And then once that happens, you get back your facility, you should have your CO, your certificate of occupancy. You can actually start using the space. Now you can start your pre-sale, right? So there's all these like triggers, but they have to line up perfectly with, again, build out construction functions and then business functions. So we're on top of that. Again, somebody from our team in your hip pocket. We have 1,000,001 vendors that we're liaisoning with, but it's the whole adage of you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
When it comes to actually staffing up the trainers, because my sense would be in a business like that, a lot of it comes down to the quality of the trainer, the person conducting the class. You could go to one gym that's not that nice, but the trainer's amazing and like you're having a great time, or you could go to this beautiful Equinox, but the trainer's not that good and you're not having a good time. How often are your franchisees the trainers, and what's the process for vetting the folks actually conducting the class?
Yeah, so we're big proponents of how the athlete train the skill. So let's use the example you just gave me. I can go to a gym that's maybe not that great, and quite honestly, maybe the trainer's not that great either, but they're not hurting people. They're a ton of fun to be around. It's like a person you'd love to grab a beer with, right? I'm probably going to show up 2 or 3 days a week. And as a technician, I might look at that person's training and think, it's not that great. They could be doing this, they could be doing that. But look, that person's coming in consistently and more often because they're having a great time. So you can't discount that, right? So we put more juice into hiring the athlete with the right character traits. We control the algorithms and the programming corporately. So we have a full-on induction process where if this, then that, we measure movement, we do all these cool scientific things, and it just levels the client in appropriately. And then we're controlling the programming. So it's not like a coach doesn't have to coach, because you still have 6 people there and you got to know your stuff. And we have an onboarding, like we have an LMS, right? A learning management system. So you take a course before you even come to live training, or if you get hired after your group came to live training, you're going to take a full-on alloy course that's about 6 hours to learn all the ins and outs. But I will say this, if you're a if you're a fun person to be around and you have a passion to help people, and we can teach you how to coach exercises, that's all you have to know. And same thing in our situation, Brian, that you mentioned. We've got coaches that aren't that technical and don't have a strong training background, maybe not a lot of letters behind their name, but they're the best coaches by far because people absolutely love being around them. And
Right.
then we'll handle
Right.
the other stuff, right? And that makes it scalable for the franchisee.
Now, I want to ask your opinion on something. I've been to Barry's boot camp in New York City. I used to go to base camp a lot and out in LA. I've done some Peloton classes. I'm curious about your opinion on the digital Peloton. There's the mirror company, right, where you like set the mirror on your wall and you train with it. What is your thought on the more digital experience where you do it from home versus coming in person or something like
Yeah, I don't think that's where we're headed currently. If you look like a Gen Alpha right now, I mean they're unplugging purposefully, right?
that? Hmm.
I mean, really, the wave of the at least the immediate future is going to be like you go to clubs and you put your phone in a locker, or you like they're purposely putting their phones away to go for a
Yeah.
hike, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and that generation usually whatever they're doing, it will trickle up, I guess, when you say in age to other populations. So I think right now you saw the boon of that starting at about 22, and you saw brands building, an entire brand based on like how many calories you burned during a workout and things like that. That's a bit passe at this point, right? I think now we're looking at more experiential fitness and more community based and more real people to people, and almost making a purposeful effort to unplug. So I would say that those things are always going to be there, and there's a select few people that are going to use those. But I think if you look at the overwhelming evidence of the amount of people that have those type of mechanisms, even at home, they're not utilized at a very high level. Nothing like having a person, or to your point, a group of people like in a CrossFit waiting for you, where there's a real community there. I mean, you're not on your phone for that. You just show up and you high five all your buddies, and you guys get down to business and try to beat each other in the workout. It's like that's what it's about. That's not going anywhere. And until digital can replace that, which is going to be a minute, that's still going to be where we're headed. And I think we're leaning even more in that direction in the foreseeable future, next 5 years or so, unless AI just completely changes everything. And it could kill us all, or we could have the Rock show up in our mirror and be like, "Hey, Rick,
Yeah.
what's up? Here's your
Yeah.
exercises for today." I'll
For
be all
sure.
over that. We'll figure out a
Yeah.
way to make a business out of it. But as of now, the digital is going to be there, but we only see it as a vehicle to connect humans more purposefully than replace the human to human connection.
Yeah, I think that there's a huge pendulum swing happening now where people are so burnt out on digital, the dating apps, Instagram, TikTok. They're just craving that, particularly the younger generation who was in high school or college with COVID. They're just so craving that community and that analog experience. So I do think, yes, of course, the AI is going to continue to perpetuate. And there's going to be more and more digital experiences. But I think a big kind of whiplash to that will be this increase in desire for smaller scale, personalized, out of home experiences. Now, more broad question for you, Rick. What do you think the biggest challenge has been in scaling your franchise over the past 6 to 12 months?
I think really it's about that relationship between franchisor and franchisee. Maybe
Hmm.
not the relationship, but just choosing the right partners, for
Yeah.
them and for us. It's like, I'm relying on a third party now to sit between me and the end user. And they have to, again, I've built what I think is the best bicycle possible. But a lot of folks are, they're coming out of big corporate, and maybe they've been the CFO of a mid-sized company. And that's a very noble position. And they're very smart folks, but they haven't been entrepreneurs. And you, Brian, of all people, you are a consummate entrepreneur. So you understand what that feels like. And for me, I've only done this. And so I don't understand the other side of the mindset. So it's been an eye opening to understand the psychology of helping someone, move into entrepreneurship after having had a full on and very successful career working in, again, corporate. I guess I could air
Yeah.
quote corporate,
Yeah.
whatever that means. So I think that's been the most difficult thing, is just, or maybe not the most difficult, but the aha for us has been, make sure you choose the right people. And a lot of it is based on how they're wired. Are they emotionally resilient, right? All the things that character traits that would make someone a good entrepreneur. And look, there's a term in franchising called entrepreneur, because like we want you to follow the playbook. So we don't want you to be a wild entrepreneur who's just chasing squirrels all over the place. But at the same time, you have to have the risk tolerance to go out there and, hang your shingle and put your money on the line and make live or die by your own decisions. And that can be terrifying for some folks. So we put more juice into teaching it, but I think there's some inherent talents that we look for now that we've maybe ignored early on.
I heard a big college football fan. I heard a quote from a broadcast this weekend. It was something along the lines of like, "Coach, the best coaches will tell you like the best players do what you tell them, except like when they do what you like in the moment. That there's times when they should do what you didn't tell them, and it works. Like the best players know when to listen and follow your rules exactly, and they know when to break them when it suits the situation. I feel like that might apply to franchisees in the sense that they need to execute the playbook and follow the outline. But hey, if there's an opportunity to do something bigger, better, an activation, a way to improve something, you probably would want them to take that next step in doing that
Yeah.
thing,
I
right?
mean, look, I think the Longhorns could use that advice right now. That would really help them,
Yeah, they're
right?
struggling a
As
little
you
bit,
know.
but yeah. Okay, so I'm curious now. We talk a lot, kind of my background and with my company, and sort of our focus and lens is more like on the digital and the marketing and sales and that side and growing the business. I think it's for me the fun topics, the boring stuff like accounting is kind of like you need to do it. But like, I'm curious for you and your franchisees. Man, gym seems crowded. There's a Planet Fitness on every corner. There's a Retro Fitness that's come in here for 6 months free for $299 a month. Like it just seems like a tough market. What do you guys do to get new customers? And when I say you guys, I don't
Yeah.
mean hire franchisees. I mean the franchisee at Alloy to get paying members.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the good news is we're in 34 states. We've yet to produce too few leads to not open at capacity in any market. It's just if franchisees hit their key performance indicators, right? And so I think it's really important to know your customer avatar. So we talked about ours is really our sweet spot's 45 to 65. That's
Mm-hmm.
an underserved avatar in the fitness market, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, and you look at like, we've done a ton of like psychographics on like, other amplifiers in the markets that we go into, like other products and services that our archetype participates in. So a lot goes into that, from choosing real estate. But as it gets down to digital advertising, as an example, it's everything from the imaging to the verbiage in the ad, and as well as the offer itself has to speak to this individual, right? It's completely different. I mean, think about like, fitness is a wide spectrum. You've got the $9 gyms on one end, and you've got your Crunches and your Planets who own that end of it. And then we're way on the other end in boutique fitness. Even in boutique fitness, most things are class based, and the average national average is around $135 a month, something like that. Well, we're on the upper end. So our average spend is probably $450 a month, right? So we're way on the other end from like those $9 gyms. And because we target a specific customer avatar, and again, we only need 130 to 150, like crowded fitness markets. I mean, think about it, Brian. If you're like, listen, man, I want to buy an Audi, it's like you go to that area. There's also going to be a Porsche dealership, a Mercedes dealership, a Lexus place, BMW, because they know that someone shopping for a luxury car might want to look at a couple different options. So they just have to like your flavor better than everyone else's. And when you've got a customer avatar that's underserved, they're either misplaced in another brand, like you're hopping around in a boot camp thing, but you got a bum knee because you played sports in college and now you're 55, right? Or you never leave the house because there's nothing that looks like it's for you because all the ads feature 30-year-old, already attractive, in shape people, right? So we'll either pull people that aren't doing anything, or we're going to poach people that we're just a better flavor for them. And so some of our most successful franchisees are in shopping centers with boot camp concepts, like Hot Works type of concepts, and general fitness clubs, all in the same shopping center. And they absolutely sell full. And some of their customers come from those other concepts.
Yeah. I think that's a really valuable lesson for any business. You may be offering on the surface the same surface, let's say personal training, as a couple other providers in the area, but niching down and providing a space or a service that's tuned to the individual needs of a more specific group can, yeah, on the surface you may say, oh, well, what if, someone, I'm going to turn off a certain type of avatar, but you're actually going to also appear 10 times more valuable to the people you are intending to serve.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be, if you try to be something to everyone, you're nothing to anyone, right? So it's like you really have to do that. And in a brick and mortar concept, it can be confusing, but I often see younger entrepreneurs, they're like, we train athletes, we train old people, we could train moms. It's like, well, pick something, because there's plenty of those people in your market to help you make money. You don't need all of them, right? And by speaking to all of them, you're losing literally all of them. So it's like, pick one, right, that you think you're good at, that you enjoy, that you think you understand them well, and go for it, because the niching down is certainly in a digital world 100%. Even in a brick and mortar, I like it.
Rick, 120 locations online, hundreds more to come. What do the next 3 to 5 years look like for Al?
So 800 locations by 2030 is the BHAG. Our
Love
runway
it.
is actually more like 1,800 locations, so we'll still have a lot of damage to do by then. But really, at this point, Brian, with 100 open, I think it's only 2% of franchises that are brick and mortar concepts get 100 open. So
Yeah,
we're already in
amazing.
rare air. And so now
Yeah.
it's just a flywheel. It's like small adjustments, rinse and repeat, keep our eye out for any kind of AI widgets or things that are coming fast and furious that can really help us. And again, drive that human connection. And that's it. Just rinse and repeat and try to do right by folks.
I know a guy who has an AI widget for local businesses. I'll connect you with him. His name's
I would
Brian
love to
Shankman.
talk to somebody like that,
Yeah.
Brian. If you could connect me, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, his name is Brian. He's a great guy, super handsome, charismatic. No, Rick, thank you so much for coming on. For folks that are maybe interested in franchising with you or just want to follow you personally, and maybe check for an alloy in their local market, where can folks find your business and you personally?
Yeah, just alloypersonaltraining.com for the consumer side. You can then get to the franchise side, or you can go straight to it in alloyfranchise.com. And then, again, Rick Mayo, anywhere on social media, on any platform, you can find me. So just pop my name in there and reach out. I'd love to connect.
All right. Sounds good, Rick. Thanks so much for the time and hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Brian.